Good morning. Welcome to Let's Get Growing. I realized this morning we haven't been in the vegetable garden much this spring so far, so I thought we'd take a quick look at what's going on in the vegetable garden, because we're sort of in a transition period now. Early crops like our lettuces and things like that are kind of wrapping up. As the weather gets warmer, lettuce does less well. New gardeners sometimes always think you can't plant till long weekend in May, but we try to get our lettuces out and our kales, Swiss chards, bok choys, things like that. We try to get them out in early April because they like the cold weather. They really start not being happy when it gets warmer, and you can see that the lettuce bed is starting to get to that point. For weeks, we've been harvesting the big leaves, big outer leaves. So we'll just come along to make a salad, and we'll just grab leaves like this, take them in, rinse them off, and then there's salad. So we've been doing that a lot. Now that the weather's warming, we're coming in and taking whole heads off. You can see that we're starting to get a bit of bolting. You can see here, we're getting a little bit of bolting. Some of the leaf varieties like Lunix, which is a very heat-tolerant one, is starting to stretch a bit. So you just want to watch that. Australian Yellow is another good heat-tolerant one. It's still looking great. We'll be able to harvest that one for a while yet. But you will start seeing your heads of lettuce starting to stretch. And when you see that starting, that means they're bolting, or they're going to go to seed. Unfortunately, that changes the flavor of the lettuce and makes it very bitter, so it's not as nice to eat. So what we're doing now is we're going in and looking at good heads that are ready to harvest and taking them out completely. But we don't just pull them out. We want to try and maximize our lettuce as long as we can. So rather than pulling the heads out, we actually cut them off and leave the roots in. And we do that because we can still cheat our lettuce a little bit. And if you look right here, you'll see where we've taken, this is little gem. So it's a nice little miniature romaine, beautiful little romaine heads here. But if you cut off and leave the stumps in, look what happens. You get a whole new crop of baby greens. Now, we're not going to let these mature to full heads, but we leave these for another week or so, and we're going to get a whole second, last crop of our little gem romaines before it gets too hot. So it's a great way to maximize. So again, just to reiterate, we're picking big leaves all the time off the outer parts of the plant. Then we cut the head, and then in many cases we can then harvest those little baby greens one more time. This bed is getting some shade in the midday, which is great. Our big ginkgo's right behind this bed here, so it actually helps for the lettuce. And if you've got shaded areas, if you've got a shady part of the vegetable garden, if you've got containers that are in the shade, you could then be coming in here and re-sowing lettuce, direct seed it all summer. You direct seed it, you grow it for a couple of weeks, you harvest the greens, and you just do it that way. What we have done now is, rather than re-sow the lettuce, we've actually just sown zucchini seed in this bed, and then it'll take over and give us zucchinis for the rest of the summer once the lettuces are all done. Then if we're tired of zucchini, we can always sort of, pull those out and then re-sow some lettuce in the fall. Because if you re-sow your lettuce in the fall, do it late August as the nights are cooling down, you're going to get another whole crop of lettuce in September, October, November, and if we have a mild autumn, even into December, you can still be harvesting fresh greens again. So don't feel that, you hit Labor Day or even if hit Thanksgiving and the vegetable garden's finished, because you can really keep it going, for us, almost 8 months of the year. I've always planned to, build some cover over some of these to even extend that season even longer. We almost go 12 months as it is. If we grow parsnips in the beds, we'll harvest those into December, and we'll harvest them as soon as we can in the spring. So we get a lot of use out of a small amount of space. So we've got lots of lettuce still coming along in here. We've thrown some calendulas in, because calendulas are a great plant for color in the vegetable garden, but they also have edible flowers. And you can actually use calendulas as a cheap saffron. Put some calendula leaves in with your rice, and you can have saffron rice made with calendulas. Peel the petals off, sprinkle them in a salad. Wonderful, great, little bit of added flavor in your salads. And this variety that we've been growing for years is called Citrus Cocktail. I don't think it's even available in North America anymore. It's still available in England, but we save the seed from it every year. We grow it separately from other calendulas and save the seed. It's a dwarf one. It's very heat tolerant, and if we deadhead it, we'll bloom the entire season. So it's a great little edible flower to add to the vegetable garden. All right, I'm going to swing around here. We finally got our tomatoes in, and it's been an interesting June so far. Last night again, we're June 16th today. Last night again, we were down to 6 degrees last night. We have had some very cool nights. The tomatoes are looking okay, though. It's warming up during the day, and we're getting ready for some hot weather. So we've got our tomatoes in. We've got our little trellises in here for them. We really pack them in this bed. We got 12 varieties in a 4x8 bed. So it's maybe a little overplanted, but we're going to feed them well. We're going to water them well. As they grow, we sort of espalier them onto their own little trellis. So it keeps them from getting a little too crazy. Although the middle ones, which tend to be our cherry tomatoes, they're on a bit taller, and they will actually get to the height of this and, droop over and things. But it works out pretty well. We don't want to have them stake much higher than this, or we can't reach them in the beds. So that's how we do that. We pick our 12 varieties. We planted them nice and deep. They're coming along really, really well. No flowers yet, but that's okay, because we want to get a good, strong plant growing before we let them start flowering and fruiting. So that's the stage we're at with our lettuce.
Your tomatoes.
To try to get the water right down at the roots. We bury some 6-inch pots in near the base of the plants, and that just helps direct the water to the roots in the raised bed. So it seems to work well for us, we usually get a pretty decent tomato crop in here. We do need to fertilize this. We really haven't top dressed this much this year, so we'll probably throw some compost around these guys, and we'll mix in some Actisol chicken manure fertilizer as well. It's a great organic fertilizer that we like to use in the raised beds.
And is that the only thing you use to feed your tomatoes through the year?
Yeah, pretty much. We'll throw, like I said, we'll throw some composted manure in here. We've got a pile of duck manure in the yard, so we'll use some of that. And then probably the granular chicken manure feed is probably all we'll use on all the vegetable beds for sure. Yeah. So as we move up into the garden here, we've been having some fun with some direct seeded crops. And we get a real mixed bag here. So we've got some great, what is this? This is the white, the hailstone radish. It's a nice white radish. I don't know if I can pull one up there. It's a bit small, but you'll see it there. And you can pick a radish at any size These ones are great. They're all white, very tasty. I'm going to show one thing that we had a problem with, and we're going to have to stop growing, I think, Swiss chards and beets for a couple of years because we've been having this problem.
It's snowing.
Yes, it's snowing because of our wonderful, ugly, horrible black locust trees. They're beautiful for 1 week in June when they bloom, and then they're nasty the rest of the year. On this leaf, you can see we've got some, this is a Swiss chard. We've got some sort of skeletonized patches. I've actually got maybe a better leaf here. Some all skeletonized. And of course, when you're growing for a leafy vegetable and this happens, you know, you're really done. You're not going to get a crop at all of that. What causes this is the beet leaf miner. So the beet leaf miner lays its eggs. The larvas, like our little caterpillars, are inside the leaf, and they just eat out the whole inside of the leaf and just leave this transparent skeleton there. They've been bad for us for a couple of years. This year they're terrible. We're just going to rip out those Swiss chards and things, and we'll replant something else. There's lots of time. We could do another crop of carrots. We could do lots of stuff. We could do more radishes for short term. We could do beans, because bush beans love our raised beds. I know we've already got some planted, but, you know, we can probably feed the world with bush beans out of these beds. They do so well. Couple of things. One thing, this one is a new one that we're trying, and it doesn't look like much yet. You might say, well, it looks like parsley, and that's because it is. But it's a little bit different. This is a parsley that we grow for the root. And it's a very old European vegetable. Slender, white tap roots, much like a very thin parsnip. We sometimes do parsnips in these beds, but parsnip foliage gets huge and really takes up a lot of space. So we're going to try the parsley root this year. It's germinated well, and it's a season-long crop. So we'll leave it in until the fall, and then we'll see how it works out and how it tastes. It's one we've never done before, so we thought we'd give it a try. What else? We got our carrots coming along well there. This big leafy one is turnips. So not rutabagas, not what we often call turnips, but these are the small white turnips, usually with a flush of purple on. We'll be able to pick these in a couple of months, and lots of turnips there. Not the big rutabagas that we often call turnips that we eat in the fall. A couple of other interesting ones, and this is, I don't know, we're going to find out. This is a broccoli, and I'm not going to remember the cultivar name, but it's a broccoli with very deeply divided leaves that you eat the leaves of. So it's a little bit different. They're coming along nicely. Laura can get maybe a bit close up there and just sort of see what this broccoli foliage looks like. But really interesting. I have no idea what it tastes like yet. Probably tastes like broccoli, but in leaf form. Another one we've never grown before, and I don't know how successful it's going to be, but I couldn't resist it in the catalog. This is a pink-stemmed celery. Celery usually likes really heavy, wet conditions. We don't really have that, but in the raised bed, we're just going to try watering it more and see what happens. See if we get a bit of a, I don't think we're going to get grocery store celery, but if we get some neat pink celery stalks, that would be kind of fun too. Going to just go a couple more here real quick. This one has been a lot of fun. We grew it last year for the first time, and I grew it again because we just love the flavor. This is a pea, but it's called a tendril pea. And you actually don't eat the peas from this plant. You eat the young tendrils. So as they grow, they make millions of these tendrils, which are trying to grab onto something to climb on. But that's what you harvest and eat. They taste exactly like pea sprouts in a fancy restaurant. that actually, I mean, they'd be a great garnish, a great salad additive, great even to put on, you know, just the corner of your plate, but completely edible and taste just like fresh garden-picked peas. The plants do bloom, and they do make peas. I think they're just coming into bloom here now. They do make peas, but you only harvest the peas to grow for tendrils next year. So that's been a really, really fun one. We love the flavor, and we will grow them all the time now. Super, super tasty. Just going to go to one more plant here. We talked about lettuce bolting and making it not palatable to eat. But if your arugula bolts, and this is our wasabi arugula, if your arugula bolts, eat the flowers. Perfectly edible, perfectly tasty, as good as the leaves, and the arugula leaves don't really go bad once it's coming into flower. So you can really eat the whole thing. This is an arugula variety called wasabi. It's an extra spicy one. Has a real wasabi flavor. So if you like sushi and things like that, add that wasabi arugula into your salads for a real great little kick. You have any questions today, Laura?
We have one question about peonies, because peonies are really beautiful this time of year. You can't drive by most gardens without seeing them.
That's a spicy arugula. Holy cow. Yeah.
And Brenda would like to know, her peonies have no buds this year. Any reason why?
Well, in most cases, the reason peonies don't flower is depth of soil over the roots. So if something's changed, if you mulch the garden, if you've piled leaves on the beds and you've got too much stuff over the roots, that will prevent them from blooming. Peonies have to have the sunlight hitting the buds to produce flowers. So that may be what's happened. You know, even if they've been in the spot for a while, you get too much soil built up over top of them. I wonder if we can walk over to a peony over here, Laura. I don't know if you can manage that. I want more of that arugula. Just step in here at this peony. I don't know if you can.
Yeah.
That out of the way. This was a peony we just transplanted, so it did get one flower on it. But what you want to do, see if we can get down. And I think maybe we got a bit too much soil over it a little bit here, because I should be seeing the topmost root there. You don't want these shoots more than about an inch below the surface. So, yeah, you see, I've even probably buried this one too deep, just because we were working in this bed. There we go. Here's sort of the crown of the plant here coming up now. So, if you're not getting bloom, get in there, get around the crown, peel back some of that soil. Don't let mulch pile up, because the light needs to get to this part of the plant when the buds are still very small for the plant to flower well. Really important point. And what will happen with a peony is it'll take 3 or 4 years for the buds to work themselves up to the level they want to be at. So make sure that you're getting out and helping them by pulling some of that soil away from the top of the crown. All right?
So Laura, her mardigons grow to about 18 inches and stop and don't bloom.
Mardigons are finicky plants. We can probably move over if we can see it. We've got a few in the garden here. So, will get that with Mardigons as well. As you can see here, this one here, not too tall, but setting some nice buds. But look at the one behind it here. This one here. It's sort of come up blind. But you see these holes in the leaves? And this one, Mardigon here. Another one that's just come up blind. We've got a few actually that aren't going to bloom this year. I suspect probably it's lily beetles that are causing, not necessarily causing the stunting, but they'll eat Mardigons right to nothing if you let them. So you need to be careful of that. I suspect Mardigons might have a couple of problems. If they're newly planted, then yeah, you're not going to get spectacular Mardigons. These ones have been in for 2 years now. And like I say, we're getting mixed reviews. Some are going to do well, some aren't. I attribute it to our soil. I don't think the Mardigons like the exceptionally drained, dry soil that we have. Certainly our best one is growing in a shady bed. It's been there for 20 years. It's in a shady bed. It's lots of leaves piled on it every year. And has really been built up a really good humusy layer over the fast draining sand. So I think that's the way to go with the Mardigons. It blooms really well, fairly heavy shade, richer soil, and really keep an eye on the red lily beetles on the Mardigons.
And Paula would like to know how your live arch is coming along.
The live arch is coming along really, really well. I'll tell you what, next week we will look at our willow tunnel that we've been building. I've done some work on it this year because we had lots of shoots. I've got some more work on it to do, and a lot of the shoots are now high enough that we can connect them at the top so a very tall person can walk through, which was my goal. Not for me to walk through, but somebody who's 6 feet plus, I don't want them to hit their head on it. So we'll look at our willow weaving tunnel on the next show, and have an update and see how it's going and start tying in the top of the arch. We put it in last year. It's doing exceptionally well, so really happy with it. So we'll come to that next time. All right, I think it's time to wrap it up. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, we'll put these up on YouTube as well. Once we're done, they'll be on our Facebook page for a while. Happy Father's Day, and we'll see you next time on Let's Get Going.